Have you ever wondered how the first family on earth handled disappointment, jealousy, and worship? Genesis 4 takes us straight into the lives of Adam and Eve's sons, Cain and Abel, and uncovers a powerful lesson about the heart of worship, the dangers of sin, and the relentless grace of God. After being driven out of the Garden of Eden, Genesis 3, Adam and Eve began a new chapter of life. No longer walking in the cool of the day with God, they now toiled under the curse of sin. Yet even in the pain of exile, life continued. Now Adam knew Eve, his wife, and she conceived and bore Cain, and said, "I have gotten a man from the Lord." Genesis 4:1. Their firstborn, Cain, was a symbol of hope. His name means acquired or gotten. Perhaps Eve thought he was the promised seed. Genesis 3:15, the one who would crush the serpent's head. Soon after, Abel was born, his name meaning breath or vapor, a hauntingly prophetic title. As the brothers grew, their paths in life began to unfold. Cain became a farmer, tilling the fertile ground. Abel took on the role of a shepherd, caring for his flocks. Both roles were vital, but a deeper story was about to unfold. But the stage was being set for a deeper drama, one not about professions, but about the posture of the heart. In time, both brothers brought offerings to the Lord. On the outside, it looked like worship, but God sees the heart. God looked beyond the offerings to the hearts of the givers. And the Lord respected Abel and his offering, but he did not respect Cain and his offering. Genesis 4:4-5. Why? It wasn't about the type of offering, but the quality and the heart behind it. Hebrews 11:4 clarifies, "By faith, Abel offered to God a more excellent sacrifice than Cain." Abel brought the best, the firstborn, the fat portions. Cain brought some of his crops. The difference was not just in what they gave, but how they gave. Abel's offering reflected a heart of faith, humility, and reverence. Cain's perhaps reflected obligation or pride. God's response to their worship revealed their hearts. Cain became furious. Jealousy, rejection, and pride boiled inside him. But here's the beauty. God didn't abandon Cain. He reached out. What do you do when God doesn't approve of something you offer him? Do you change or do you rebel? Cain stood at a crossroads, and so do we. So the Lord said to Cain, "Why are you angry, and why has your countenance fallen? If you do well, will you not be accepted? And if you do not do well, sin lies at the door, and its desire is for you, but you should rule over it." Genesis 4:6-7. This was a moment of grace. God confronted Cain, not with punishment, but with an invitation. You can still choose rightly. Sin is crouching like a predator, but you can master it. God revealed two key truths. Sin is always near, waiting to pounce. We are responsible for how we respond. But Cain didn't listen. The jealousy grew darker. Instead of mastering sin, he allowed it to master him. Now Cain talked with Abel his brother, and it came to pass, when they were in the field, that Cain rose up against Abel his brother and killed him. Genesis 4:8. The first human death was not natural. It was murder, committed by a brother. The root, jealousy, pride, and unchecked sin. Cain did not just reject God's warning, he took matters into his own hands. If Abel was favored, then Abel had to be removed. In the field, away from others, Cain acted. no witnesses, but God saw. Then the Lord said to Cain, "Where is Abel your brother?" Genesis 4:9. The same God who asked Adam, "Where are you?" Genesis 3:9, now asked Cain about his brother, not because he didn't know, but because he was giving Cain a chance to confess. But Cain's response was defiant. "I do not know. Am I my brother's keeper?" It was a lie and a mockery. God's patience was met with sarcasm. Yet again, Cain had a choice, to repent or to harden his heart. Then came the judgment. "The voice of your brother's blood cries out to me from the ground." Genesis 4:10. Abel's blood cried for justice, and justice came. So, now you are cursed from the earth. When you till the ground, it shall no longer yield its strength to you. A fugitive and a vagabond, you shall be on the earth. Genesis 4:11, 12. Cain was cursed, alienated from the land, and destined to wander. But even in judgment, God showed mercy. Cain cried out, "My punishment is greater than I can bear." Genesis 4:13. He feared being hunted and killed. So God marked him, not with a curse, but with protection. And the Lord set a mark on Cain, lest anyone finding him should kill him. Genesis 4:15. Even after murder, defiance, and lying, God offered mercy. Cain would live, but live as a reminder of what happens when sin reigns. Cain left the presence of the Lord, Genesis 4:16, and built a city named after his son, Enoch. His lineage grew in civilization, producing musicians, metalworkers, and cities, but it also grew in violence and pride. Lamech, a descendant, boasted of killing a man and demanded 77-fold vengeance, Genesis 4:23-24. But Genesis doesn't end there. The chapter closes with hope. "And Adam knew his wife again, and she bore a son and named him Seth. For God has appointed another seed for me instead of Abel, whom Cain killed." Genesis 4:25. Through Seth's line would come Noah, and eventually Jesus Christ. Then men began to call on the name of the Lord. Genesis 4:26. Worship was restored. The line of faith continued. Even in brokenness, God's plan moved forward. Cain's story warns us. Sin is always at the door, but so is God, offering grace, instruction, and a way out. Will you open your heart to Him or shut Him out like Cain? True worship comes from the heart, and when sin tempts us, God offers grace and a way to overcome. Abel is a man of faith, Hebrews 11:4, whose short life reminds us that God values the heart behind the offering. His voice, though silenced, still speaks, Hebrews 12:24. Through Cain, we see a warning of what happens when pride and jealousy are left unchecked. Yet even he was given opportunities to repent and return. Their story illustrates the tension between human sin and divine grace. Cain's story is filled with tension, a deep inner struggle that many of us can relate to. He battled feelings of rejection, envy, and the strong pull of sin. God warned him, lovingly saying that sin was crouching at the door, waiting to take control. Cain had a choice, to overcome it or give in. Sadly, Cain chose to let sin win. But even then, after the blood of his brother cried out from the ground, God didn't abandon him. Instead, He responded with justice, but also with mercy. Cain was held accountable, yet he was also protected. This part of the story reveals powerful spiritual truths. God is just. He sees every wrong and does not ignore sin. God is merciful. Even when we fall, He extends grace and offers us a chance to return. And sin, it's real, it's dangerous, and it wants to rule us. But with God's help, we don't have to let it. Imagine the scene. Abel approaches the altar with quiet reverence, offering the very best of his flock, the firstborn, the fat portions, his heart full of faith and gratitude. There's a calm joy in his worship, a sincere desire to honor God. Now shift to Cain. He stands beside his own offering, produced from the ground he worked so hard to till. But his heart is heavy, his expression is tense. Beneath the surface, frustration brews. Why wasn't his offering accepted? Why did God favor Abel's gift and not his? The silence between the brothers speaks volumes. Abel says nothing, but Cain's silence grows into rage. Then, the field. No crowds, no witnesses, just two brothers alone. What was once a peaceful place now becomes the setting of the first human tragedy. The ground that once yielded crops now drinks the blood of the innocent. One act of jealousy, one moment of anger left unchecked, and Abel's life is gone. And then comes the voice of God. Cain, where is your brother? Not because he didn't know, but because he wanted Cain's heart to respond with truth. And we feel it, that aching question, soaked in sorrow. God's words pierce deeper than judgment. They carry grief, heartbreak, love. This story isn't just about ancient history. It touches something real in us. Have you ever longed to be seen, only to feel overlooked? Have you ever struggled with jealousy, even towards someone close to you? Have you ever felt the sting of rejection or wrestled with your own pride? Cain's story reaches into the quiet corners of our hearts. His emotions, his desire for approval, his envy, his anger, are emotions we all wrestle with at some point. But so is God's invitation to choose humility over pride, confession over cover-up, grace over guilt. Ask yourself, am I offering God my best, or just some of what I have? When God convicts me, do I repent or harden my heart? Do I believe I can overcome sin with His help? This week, bring your offering to God, not just in money or time, but in your heart. Worship Him in spirit and truth. And if sin crouches at your door, remember, you don't have to open it. God is ready to help you overcome. Thank you for watching Bible Questions Hub. Next time, don't forget to watch Genesis 5, The Mystery. Why did Enoch never die?